Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
The Rock and Review is so pleased to bring on a soulful Southern husband-wife duo, The War and Treaty. It is Tanya and Michael Trotter. I love the new album, Heartstown. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You know, I feel like you guys have been everywhere. I was telling you this before we started the interview. I was watching the Big Night with the Country Music Hall of Fame and Marty Stuart and all this stuff. And look who's there but the War and Treaty. And you guys are hanging out with Marty, playing music. It's like, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Dream come true.
Definitely.
Well, and I think you guys have had a lot of dreams come true. I got to brag on you a bit to where, 2019 was a pretty big year when you're out on the road with Brandi, Carlisle, Jason Isbell. Oh, wait a minute. Al Green at Radio Music City.
Unbelievable year.
It's just amazing. Well, and you guys have such an incredible story on how you came together in your music. But I want to talk about this album first, to where it's very interesting to me with Heartstown, how you came up with this name. But we were talking about the great songs. How did you come up with this?
Well, we had been touring, as you mentioned, all of last year and the year before, and actually performing a lot of these songs while we were out on tour. And as we gained a fan base, there was a culture that we didn't even know was happening with our fan base, and it was one of love and acceptance, and all kinds of people were coming to our shows and sending us messages. And so we came up with this idea: what if we had a place, a town, a neighborhood where everybody felt accepted, regardless of their
race,
color creed, the parties that they chose, Democrat, Republican, whatever the case may be. And we would create a place where everybody's opinions, because it's just an opinion, people get so worked up over an opinion, that you could bring that there and you would not be ridiculed for it.
Tag teaming.
Yeah.
I think it's more than just opinions.
Yeah.
I think that something that I've learned from my wife is to be respectful of everyone, period. Whether it's their opinion, whether it's their lifestyle, whether it's what they choose to wear. Respect is the gasoline that will drive us into the future.
Oh, I like that.
And
I think that's amazing, and I so agree with you. I think it's such a positive message on everything that you guys do as a couple and as a band. But the songs in this album, and I was telling you earlier, after listening to it again today, it's like I can hear Ray Charles, I can hear Civil Wars, but also to me, and I'm a big lover of R&B and soul, and each of you bring such a unique perspective to the music, to where I can hear a nod to some of the the 60s R&B that I still listen to and love. And I'm like going, man, it's nice to hear somebody doing this now, today, with a fresh nod.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, number one. And what we're hearing in Heartstown is the soundtrack to the way we love. Sometimes our love sounds like the 60s. Sometimes it has the funk and the lucid behaviors of the 70s. Sometimes it has the whole stone factor of the 80s.
Yeah.
And the wild hip hop factor of the 90s.
Yeah.
The boldness of the 2000s and beyond. And I think what we're trying to accomplish today is with our album Heartstown, I think that it's important that we as a nation understand how important it is to take each other in. Acceptance and really building a space of safety for one another. And it is no secret that at the current moment, the temperature of our country is threatened. Our democracies are being threatened. But the healing forward movement between the people in our country, it has always been threatened and always been put on display for people to gawk over of other countries. And I'm talking about the fight of none other than black versus white. And what we're trying to do is eradicate that narrative with Hartstown. You know, you are my brother and her brother, and we are your brother and sister. And it has nothing to do with this. In fact, I today, because I've laid my eyes on you, from this day forward, our pact to you is that you are ours. And I think that that is what needs to happen. Above the music, above the sports and the entertainment that our country can provide, I think that what we need to provide for one another is ownership of saying, you belong to me and I belong to you, and this is our country.
Yeah.
And I think you guys have done that with this album too, and it's such healing messages. And you know, it's funny listening to the music too. You know, some of the more rockin', funkier songs, which I'm a big fan of too. It's like I find my head nodding. I'm like going, oh yeah. It's like a good thing I'm not driving the car right now. You know, it's like when some of those where you really pick up the beat. But I want to talk a little bit about each of you individually as artists before you came together. With Tanya, you know, you started out singing at a very young age, and then kind of pursued a career, you know, going into music and going into acting and everything, you know, in Washington, D.C. And then Michael, your story is so unique to me. And you got to tell me about this with this piano in Saddam Hussein's palace.
Yeah. His story is amazing. And, you know, mine is exactly what you said. I started out in a church choir in Washington, D.C., listening to my brother sing. It gave me the strength and the courage to get up there and do it. And once I decided that I wanted to do it after watching him tear up a Sunday morning service where everybody was crying and jumping around with joy as they do in most Baptist churches back then, I said to my mom, whatever he did to make those people feel the way they did, uplifted and happy and joyous, even though they were crying, there were tears of joy. I wanted to do that for the rest of my career. And I went on to do that, you know, at 17, and ended up in Sister Act 2, which has become a pop culture phenomenon, you know, by all of us just watching it now. We're like, what happened? Right. We didn't know it was going to happen back then. But I'm grateful that I had that opportunity, and it led me to want to do more with music, to incorporate different sounds and different styles of music, and penetrate it with love. And then I met Michael, and he wasn't writing for anyone when I met him. And my brother was, and I were working on a duet project, and Michael wrote all the songs in one day. It was like 12 songs. He wrote our album, and I knew that there was something special about him from that moment, and not just from being a musician, but as a human being. And so we got together and were married for 3 years before we even started singing together.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, a lot of that comes from that piano and Saddam. For me, a lot of people believe that my story started in the military musically, but I actually grew up, like Tanya, in church singing at age 3 at Holy Trinity Baptist, as well as Bethel's Seventh-day Adventist Church. And but I didn't go or have the opportunities that my sweet pea had. And so I fell away from it for a little while. But music found me again in Iraq at war, fighting for this great and beautiful country, United States of America, in the United States Army. And it was used as a tool to steal me away from fear. One of the captains out there identified me as being the weakest link soldier because I was visibly overcome with fear. And he took me down in the basement of the forward operating base that we were occupying at the time. And he showed me this piano because he read in my soldier's profile that music is a big part of my life. I love music. And he showed me Saddam's piano. And Saddam had pianos all over Iraq, but this one in particular had his signature carved in it. He frequented it a lot. And this captain just felt like if Saddam can find peace in his tormented head, then playing this instrument, then certainly someone with the kind of character and mind that I had could find even more. And he said to me, whenever you feel discouraged, come down here and find home. And I taught myself how to play the piano right there in Baghdad, Iraq. And when I wanted to run away from it because I wasn't as prolific as I'd like to be, my hands don't work like the greats, like Oscar Peterson or Ray Charles, for that matter, or even the greats of today, like Lang Lang, who's so prolific. I wanted to run away from that, but this beautiful angel here forced me to stick with it, forced me to stay with it. And I'm so glad she did. And now I play the piano on the record that saw me on both Healing Tide, which was our previous album, and Heartstown.
I really love the natural harmonies that the two of you have and the intertwining of your voices. And it's interesting too, you know, when I can go in, I can hear the banjo or I can hear the dobro, but also the orchestration. And Tanya, your voice is so operatic styled, but then it mixes well with Michael's also, to where when you put them together, it's like, okay, this is something different.
Oh, it's so much fun. You know, us singing just the duo sometimes without our band is one of my favorite moments, because when we first started, we were in a basement of somebody's house, you know, homeless, just trying to make it. And we would have 6-hour vocal rehearsals, sometimes 8-hour vocal rehearsals. And it was some of the most exciting times, because in that moment, we got to learn one another's, you know, energy. So I'd be across the room sometimes and he'd be across the room, not looking at each other, and we just can kind of feel each other out, you know, vocally. So singing together in that capacity is definitely one of my favorite things to do with him.
It sounds like you guys, from the music with Heartstown and with your previous albums as well, like you've been singing together for decades. And really the band just launched in what, 2014?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think it's the work we've put into it. Our relationship is what you're hearing in 2021. Ty and I, we've been through the test in our relationship and trusting one another and learning how to allow each other to lead and win. And that is what makes a beautiful duo. And vocally, we have to have that same trust musically as well. There are some days, many days, where I take the lead and I quickly fall right on my face. And I realize that, I wasn't supposed to lead this day. This is Tanya's day, or vice versa. Yeah. But it has been such an honor to be able to continue to study a book or a subject matter that will never go out of style. And that's the love of my life, my wife, Tanya.
And vice versa. We're always, you know, learning each other every day. You know, we're learning what works and what doesn't work, and what our needs are and what our needs aren't, you know.
I want to make sure that our viewers know, where's the best place to keep up with the band, The War and Treaty? Where do they need to go?
Well, how do you
go to the website, thewarandtreaty.com. Socials, on Twitter, we're just War and Treaty, but on Facebook and Instagram, it's The War and Treaty.
Well, I can't wait to take in the virtual concert for Valentine's Day. And I will be at a show when you're back on the road playing live, because I got to see that, you know, because I've had a taste of it from the videos, but I want the real thing. I want in person. But congratulations on a great album, The War and Treaty with Heartstown. And I want to make sure our viewers go out, you know, download it, buy it, however they consume music. But congratulations on a great album. And thanks for coming on The Rock and Review.
Thank you for having us so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of a Bobby Bones Show.